So kia ora koutou, ko Z14CAB te waka rererangi, ko Brisbane te awa, ko Cloudcatcher te maunga, ko Lani Evans aho. Hi everyone. It is an absolute privilege to be here and to be among some amazing wahine. No pressure to change the world. I'm Lani, I'm lucky enough to be the manager of the Vodafone New Zealand Foundation, and Vodafone has 27 foundations around the world and has been operating for 26 years globally and 15 years locally. We've had an exclusive focus on improving outcomes for young people since 2007, and over that time we've contributed about $27 million to communities around the country. We've contributed that primarily through our World of Difference program. And the World of Difference program is a funding program that provides support for individuals to work on youth development projects in their communities for 1 year. And it's been an incredible catalyst for growing and developing leaders in the sector, and there's some here today. But after 15 years and more than 100 participants, we thought it was time to stop, examine and reset for the future. So we decided to go through an evaluation process and a strategic review, and we started with 3 key questions for ourselves. Is our current funding moving the dial for excluded and disadvantaged young people? Are we generating the best outcomes for the sector and for our funding recipients? And are we making the most of our unique position? We wanted to be as thoughtful and inclusive as possible in our process, and we commissioned an evaluation of historic work, a literature review, a social psychology study, an economic analysis, and we conducted stakeholder hui all around the country. And we found some really great things. We found a really strong network of alumni, and we found an appreciation for the flexible, high-trust, relational way of working we had. But we also found some unintended consequences. Our recipients of the World of Difference have incredibly high levels of civic engagement. They're very passionate about their communities. But alongside that high level of civic engagement was also a low level of resilience, which meant that our programs, which focused on a person for a short period of time, were contributing to burnout in a sector that's already terrible at looking after itself. And we also discovered that our programs, with their individualistic focus, were excluding Māori organisations who were uncomfortable with that way of working. So, at the end of 6 months of conversations, we landed on a new strategy, and with the help of the board, CSI and the Foundation Alumni Network, we had 4 key pieces that we wanted to look at. We wanted to keep the good elements of our work and continue to improve our practice. We want to engage our slightly more radical side and start to push some of our boundaries in terms of our thinking about grant making. We wanted to leverage the power of Vodafone by aligning more strongly with the kaupapa of the business, and we wanted to focus more narrowly on young people who are excluded and disadvantaged. So our overall goal is the same. We want to see all young people in New Zealand thriving and living lives that they value. But our big, hairy, audacious goal has changed a little. We want to halve the number of young people who are at risk in New Zealand, those who are excluded and disadvantaged, and we're committing 10 years and $20 million to see it happen. We want to reframe around a long-term commitment because we understand that these are complex and complicated problems and we can't fix them in a year or 2. We want to reframe about an ecosystems view, moving beyond direct programmatic interventions and thinking more broadly about the contexts and environments that affect young people's lives. And we want to frame a goal that's bigger than we can possibly achieve by ourselves as an impetus for collaboration, because we know that we can't do this alone and neither can anybody else. We're moving away from an individualistic focus with our funding, and we want to move away from an individualistic focus with our philanthropy as well. We hope that this goal can be a call to action for others, for government, for philanthropy, for communities, everyone. It's not about us, it's about the work and the young people, and we really want to see it done. So we've landed on 4 pieces of work to start with. Innovation, collaboration, disruption, and leveraging the power of Vodafone. And for us this year, is really focused on the innovation piece. It's because it's the simplest piece of work for us to do. So it'll be focused on technology-based interventions that will make the most of the human resources that sit within Vodafone, including an accelerator program that starts next month in Christchurch and 3 grant rounds per year focused on innovation, things that can scale alongside our programs. And this includes projects like ZEAL, which is a national youth organisation that has an online crisis intervention service which locates keywords that are used by young people on Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter. It looks for keywords that indicate suicidality. And then they have trained volunteers who send direct message interventions to those young people to provide pastoral care, to provide support and to connect them with local services. Our collaboration and disruption funds are a little bit more difficult. So these will be focused on funding interventions that respond to key issues affecting young people. These will be non-contestable funds that are focused on community-led collaborative interventions. And the best example we have so far is the work that's been done alongside Foundation North, Todd and Tyndall, who worked with Oranga Tamariki to develop Voice Whakarongo Mai, an independent advocacy organisation supporting the 5,500 children and young people in care. This piece of work gives us a chance to work together, to think big, and to think more about the context and ecosystems that affect young people's lives. What would make the biggest difference? Is policy change, access to dry, warm homes, more connected communities? We're not entirely sure what makes the biggest difference right now. But how can we find out what will really make the difference, and how can we be led by communities and with young people at the centre? So this whole process requires us to be a constantly learning organisation. And that means a range of things are at the top of my mind. And some of those are, how do we be more consistent with evaluation? How do we understand our own impact and how we're tracking against our big, hairy, audacious goal? But how do we also support the communities and the organisations that we're funding to understand their impact and do evaluation of their work as well? It means understanding how we can be treaty partners, because statistically, Māori young people are more likely to show up in these categories. And what does that mean for us as a Pākehā organisation? How can we help tell the stories that Hannah described? How can we be more positive, and how can we contribute? How do we understand our limitations? As a corporate foundation, we've got a considerable amount of freedom, but we also have some constraints. So how do we work within those and start pushing those? We have access to technology and influence, but there are limitations to what we can do. So how do we partner really well to make sure that we are working alongside those who can do the things that we can't? And finally, how do we use our power wisely? We've got financial capital, human capital, and the power of a multinational corporation behind us. How do we make sure that we use that power in ways that are participatory and continue to be connected to grassroots communities, the people who really generate the outcomes? And to speak to Terry Ann's kōrero, I know a guy. In fact, I'm connected to about 3,500 of them just through Vodafone. Kia ora.